we need to see the small change-ups. It's that adaptability where now Black and Yellow, they're trying to replicate game two, where D2 Hustlers, they're probably going to try and veer off just a bit. I think if there's anything to be said about the Flea Marana, though, he was still getting his items. He was still being that same farmy playstyle that Flea just encapsulates. What, he had a four staff around the same time. He had like Dragon Lance and a Mithril Hammer on the TA. He's just always right up there with the useful items that they definitely play around. Love the respect band, getting that silencer out. Don't let Defy do it to you again. And I think Defy, to be honest, in that second game, really struggled to make a lot of the plays that usually he really can make. And I think that does, again, come back towards that lane setup that just so heavily favored them. And hopefully we'll see Black and Yellow pull something out again. I think getting Nick on a hero that's going to allow him to stick with his partner. He has to stick with his partner this time around. I think you can kind of ditch the Doom a lot easier, but Mars, you have that kill lane, you have that initiation. You're going to want to play with him just a little bit more in the beginning and then veer off later so that way you can give him his level 6. But I don't think you can make that Tusk Mars lane work nearly as much as they were able to do in the previous setup.
Yeah, that is true to a certain extent, although for Black and Yellow, there is a pretty quote-unquote easy solution here. The Rubik is in. And Little Nick could simply take that. That Rubik Mars lane is one we have seen over and over and over again from so many different teams just because it's effective and it's relatively easy to pull off. So Black and Yellow could go for it. They've got the last ban here and then their own pick coming up, so there's really nothing standing in their way. Plus, then you have the Rubik against Tide and Mirana, both of whom you can take some pretty valuable spells from.
Okay, ban the TA. I like it, honestly. Even though we did see Esk struggle a little bit there, I think they definitely got kind of pulled apart. And Snapfire, really good hero versus Tide, a hero that we usually see banned out versus squads like Lava and Thunder Predator because he is felt like that kind of answer where you get Mars Snapfire in your opening two, and then suddenly this Tide feels even worse. And I like it a lot. It's that same anti-armor play. Now, maybe you wish you let that monkey through because we've seen what Snapfire does to safe lane Monkey Kings, but at the same time, you don't want Yuma to do it to you. I think for a third time, maybe a fourth time, considering how much he plays Monkey in this tournament. But Snap, it's that hero. It's not Rubik, of course. It'll never be a Rubik, but it gives you that anti-armor, it gives you that slight save, and it gives you a really powerful ulti that now you don't really have damage problems on Black and Yellow, and they don't have physical damage problems, which is massive. I think that's something that a lot of people fall into whenever they pick up this Mars. You need someone to accentuate that God's Rebuke, because Spear, that really is all of your early game damage. If it's your only damage, it really is a lot more sad. Unfortunately, though, they do let the Ogre through, something that Devi and many, many people have been picking up to a great extent. And we do see the Kunkka. Okay. An immediate pick. Timber.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, to a certain extent, D2 Hustlers and ourselves as well thought maybe that they had gotten past that danger zone when the Timber was not picked up and they go for the Mars instead, but, well, both of them are going to run here. The Mars, I would assume, is probably the one that goes to the middle lane in this scenario because mid Timber is still kind of meh, but you have a lot of damage, both sort of physical and here from the Timber Saw, and you've got two heroes on that front line that just don't really care about a lot of your damage. So if you're D2 Hustlers, I mean, between Tide and Kunkka, you're not exactly behind on that front either, but now their carry is going to be relied upon so much more to actually break through some of these heroes and get that damage down.
Yeah, at the very least, you do know it's going to be a Mars mid, arguably. I don't think that they can fit another mid laner in here, like the Queen of Pain. That's why they're banning out Yams and Heroes. I love the PA ban, covering their Tide pick just a little bit more. But Kunkka is now more or less forced to go for items like the Spirit Vessel, because there is damage problems right now on the Hustler side. Of course, you've got Murana Kunkka. You've got that same level of setup. We'll see if they get to play with each other and sync up a little bit more than they did in game two. But at the same time, Zero got his hero. That is Zero's hero. That's his baby right there. That's what he's been playing time and time again, even when the hero was not doing so hot. They even banned him out for it, just so that way you have that safety if there was some sort of chance of them moving it around, picking a, or having Yuma go over onto that Kunkka safe lane again. It's funny that they ban out the bat too, just because there is that, I guess, thought in the back of your mind, and if you're Black and Yellow, but at the same time, I think they need a Yuma hero. I think they need someone who's actually going to be able to hold down the lanes, give them a little bit more damage. The only problem is the dead ringer here would be Luna, I think, for them. They need someone who's going to not only give them magic damage, but also hit buildings and give them mid-game fight and give an actual push onto the mid tower. They need, again, one of those catch-all heroes that we keep on finding carries being forced onto. It's just what are they going to be happy with now picking it into really the blind Yamsun pick. And it will be Luna. Okay. Oh, immediate pick.
Wow.
And the life stealer. Well, I mean, they're double downing here on the damage problems the D2 have. Everything is Yuma. Everything is going to be coming from him or esque around that early 15, pre-15 minute mark. Where black and yellow, I mean, it didn't look so good for Yamsling game one, but I think this Lifestealer pick is a whole lot better in this game.
Yeah, it's in a much stronger position. There's really not a whole lot he has to worry about getting through his rage, so
You're dead.
feels like he's just going to be set up in a better position. I think he has a better lane even in terms of just his straight up partner. So black and yellow, I mean, this is what we need to see from them, right? In game two, it felt like they had finally put themselves in a position where they were being more proactive as opposed to responding to what their opponents are doing. And here in game three, it feels like it's a similar scenario. Outside of maybe the switch onto the Mars for Sammy, I'm not sure that's the hero he would have preferred here, but it still puts them in a solid spot.
Yeah, and we've seen Niemi play it before. Now we just need to actually see him kind of pull it off. I think he's done it a few times. I don't think they've won with it when he has played it, but it does do exactly what you'd hope for a Mars to do. Gets level 6 fast, rotates on the lanes, and he's got good lanes to rotate too. Both the Tidehunter and the Luna, they're not the best at actually getting out of that arena. They're not able to squeak through, as well as just you have that same setup. You've got Disruptor and Snapfire. You're actually able to, I think, put out a lot of that control that's actually going to actually result in kills.
It feels
Not
good
to
be
mention,
this
you
good.
have this Timbersaw who can only imagine Zero is just going to snowball out of control. It's how he always tries to win the game with this hero. He does become more of that hard farmer, but that's where the mid Mars slots in just absolutely perfectly because you don't have that same level of farm coming
It
through
feels
from your
good to be this
mid.
good.
So now it just feels even more balanced.
Oh, that's no good.
We've got a little bit of an exchange early on once again. Really, I've seen that in every game so far. So a little bit of banter early, but we are not seeing the two sides really pushing for that early fight in the way that they did in the previous match. Flea is not really going to get punished right now, so more of a laid-back approach, some slightly more defensive warding, at least in the top lane for black and yellow, but you see over on the other side, they drop the ward down in the bottom lane, really just getting them vision over the rotations, the pulls, everything that they would potentially need there. So, see what black and yellow can do with that. Meanwhile, for the D2 Hustlers side, kind of a similar story. They ward up their own high ground here, and I don't believe they've put their second ward down just yet.
Yeah, they're scared. They know. They've got the Tide, they've got the Luna, they've got the Nighttime Vision and the Gush. I don't think necessarily D2 should fight here.
Lee,
Okay, Lee. Not again.
he's not going to need the leap this time, but that's a lot of damage that he takes. I mean, he's got some tangos, and technically he has this salve, but if you have to use this now as Sammy... Okay. Just gonna give him a little bit of crap for that. No leap, lol, and... I mean, Flea... It's a bit of a risk, right? He just assumed they weren't going to chase him any further, and this time the risk pays off, but he saw what happened the last time he had to take that leap at level 1, and the lane just really kind of sucked. So, he'll eat the damage if he can avoid that. Ooh, that skilling play as Jubei... Well, yeah, now this is kind of awkward, because Flea does have the arrow, and it sets up perfectly for first blood.
Yeah, they don't even skip a beat there. Yamson gets one creep deny, but, I mean, they'll take that every single day of the week. He was trying to set up to block that large camp, because whenever you talk about Flea, you always talk about blocking up his camps, making them obnoxious, and he will find that his large is blocked here, but that's also where he just immediately runs over towards the other large camp and then just starts arrowing it, or he's arrowing range creeps and just giving it over to Monster. However, because of that early rotation, and they are copping a lot of damage versus each other here, Flea does have the salve, there wasn't that same movement from black and yellow to actually get vision into that triangle. Of course, Luna, another stat carry, someone you're always going to want to walk back to, and with the courier out, Flea is completely fine with this, and look, he's already setting himself up to try and go for the arrow. Jubei would love to block it, but I don't know if Jubei wants to necessarily expend his resources. That's a nice creep wave coming in to block the arrow, though.
Monster, I mean, as long as he's got the Gush, you have the chance. It's not hard lockdown for the setup, but whoever you solo up makes for an easier target for Flea to hit. Meanwhile, down in the bottom lane, Zero trying to go to work here. Timber Chain does a little bit of early damage, but problem is you're going up against an Ogre. He is always going to be obnoxious, and they're pushing forward for the kill. Yuma has that stun in with the Lucent Beam. They get a follow-up stun from the Fire Blast. They get the kill, and Divide is actually still not dead. He even has a salve, so maybe he can... Yeah, he's going to pop it, heal up. Yuma, meanwhile, I don't really think this is a kill he can get any longer with the 6 stacks on the armor, but they win out that fight. Divide stays alive. They take down the Snap, and Zero kind of had to spend that whole fight really timber chaining around, not quite farming up, whereas Yuma jumps just that little bit further ahead of him, and now they caught Yamsun out on the other side of the map. No point up in the rage yet, so they get the Gush, they get the arrow, and they find the kill.
And you're probably only going to see him get a point up in the rage, maybe at like level 4, but at the same time, Jubei was pulling. He was in no position to help out his teammate, and unfortunately, it's the little plays where are D2 going to do this to you, where they suddenly just start winning their lanes out of nowhere.
Yeah, 3 kills on the board here early on, and look at how far forward they're playing down bot. Divide, I mean...
He doesn't care.
Yeah,
he
ask him if he gives a damn about any damage that he's taking from this duo. He just continues to push forward. If I get Yuma farm, we win the lane. It's as simple as that for the Ogre, and... Well, there's not a whole lot that they can do. Lil Nick, maybe if they get this cookie play out in the right spot, but no Whirling Death from Zero means they really don't have the nuke damage, and only level 1 Timber Chain as well, so... I mean, it's not no damage, but it's damage Divide doesn't have to care too much about, as, well, maybe he has to care about it a little bit now. He is dropping low, but Yuma's coming in. They're going to look to turn this around onto Zero. Needs another Lucent Beam in a few seconds, but he doesn't want to chase that far. Could just go for Lil Nick instead, but with his HP pool that low, he was very concerned about Zero maybe chaining back in.
Oh, Nick, does he? Nah, doesn't try for it. Could go for the cookie onto the creep, but I think Yuma pretty prepared for it in case he just needed to run in, and Divide will just salve him up. So it's not the biggest loss in the world. Divide was looking to die pretty soon anyway. He was completely out of mana, I think, but at the same time, they've just been playing so well in this bottom lane, knowing that Zero has to go for the skill build, because you really do. There's not much room for improvement when it comes to this Timbersaw hero, and even though Zero loves it, it is one of the big drawbacks where, unfortunately, you just don't do nearly as much damage as you do anymore. And if you don't go for the 1-1-0 build where you greed out on your first point in reactive, then you really don't end up doing that much damage, unfortunately.
That is going to be the trade-off. Your Timbersaw can be very, very tanky, but he's really not allowed to go all in on damage anymore. And speaking of damage, Jubei taking a little bit too much of it up top. That duo strikes again. Monster and Flea maybe a little pissed off at the way that their lane went the last time around. They are playing so aggressively at this point, and you mentioned in that previous game the fact that Flea was still finding items. Now he's got 3 kills on the board in the first 5 minutes, so his progression, for this point in the game at least, is going to take a nice step forward.
And here's the stack game. You're playing Flea, and just going to work.
We're stacking for either a Kunkka or a Luna, both heroes that can clear through it quickly and benefit quite a bit from it. As Esk, well, that's a weird one. It doesn't actually pin him to that wall. There's a bit of a spot where the ramp starts and the wall ends, so not able to get that stun down. Meanwhile, the X into the arrow from Flea really prevents Sammy from going from anything further, and they're bringing more heroes over. You see Lil Nick has gotten into position. I don't know. They'd have to bait Esk forward a little bit further at this point, but this is looking like the bait, but they get the X into the Ghost Ship and the arrow, but with the supports coming in, Esk really didn't want to go any further than that. Divide TP's forward now, though, so you see Flea going for it. That Starstorm hits, kind of, but Divide's a little bit too far behind to follow it up.
Yeah, it's a little bit awkward, and Divide, he might actually just be the cost here.
Yeah, this is very awkward. He is going to throw the stun down, and Flea gets in with the Starstorm again. That's enough to take down Nick, and now you look at Sammy, he's not exactly in a healthy spot. If an arrow connects here from Flea, well, he might have been able to get the kill, but doesn't actually try for it. So, bit of a trade-off there on the supports. The arrow does eventually fly out to take down that siege creep, but if you're D2 Hustlers, I think you're okay with that. Your Kunkka was able to get away. He's farming up in the jungle. He's going to be able to grab a bounty rune to refill the bottle, so his sustainability in this lane is going to be just fine for the time being.
And at the same time, though,
Okay.
Black and Yellow, you force them out. You force everyone to come towards mid, and that's exactly what both the Lifestealer and the Timbersaw want. They want their solo levels, and of course, you do have a very similar game where your support 2 is very level 6 hungry. Damn, they just placed that word at the exact same time, but they both want their level 6s. They are going to get them eventually, but you look at Zero now. Zero is just going to force the Luna out. You can't really stay here if you're Yuma, and at the very least, he was able to complete his Mask of Madness before he did get forced to rotate away, but this is where Zero is just going to keep this card alive forever, and someone has to come down here, and unfortunately, because of how the matchup goes, this isn't Monster. Monster can't go versus the Timber pretty much ever. You're just gonna die, so it has to be someone else, and it looks like it'll be Flea. At the very least, Flea was able to snipe out, I think, that cart, but Devi, well,
Going to be sacrificed here in the jungle. He's just doing a little bit of dancing for now, but that's not going to be enough. Sammy hits him with a spear. They find the kill, and Black and Yellow starting to get a little bit more active. They're searching for those kills on their opponent's side of the map. They're continuing to pressure up the tier 1, and yeah, as you said, the Mirana was able to take out that siege creep, but Zero can still do a lot to just sort of hack away at this for now, and nobody can really come down here to do much about it. So, just a slow but uncontested push coming out from Black and Yellow is over in the middle lane. Sammy, he is getting hit up, and
almost.
I think I have TC'd. Hold on a moment. Wow.
Okay, something interesting is happening as Little Nick is going to get chased down by Flea. Flea not actually going to hit with that Starstorm as we have the leap arrow, but just the leap is going to be enough, and Devi walking away as well. That kill was successful onto Sammy Boy at the beginning of everything, even though the arrow did whiff, but you hate to see it. You back, Kmart?
Yep, we are back. Thank you for the cover. Sorry, folks watching the stream. Yeah, we just got kicked out for a second, so apologies for that, but you know how Dota is sometimes. As Sammy hit up by the Ignite in the middle lane. Esk, well, he does have the Ghost Ship. If they could pull him out a little bit further, Flea's got the arrow to work with as well, so they're going to go for it. There's the X, there's the arrow, there's the Ghost Ship. The Torrent is going to come out here as well, but Sammy... Oh, Sammy. He just doesn't get to play.
They'll give away the ward there, but at the same time, you'll gladly take that. That's 2 really nasty kills onto the Mars, and of course, you want to get aggressive on the Mars. You have these easy targets in your arena. Unfortunately, they just do so much damage, and that's where the more individual and separate and independent playstyle coming in from the D2 Hustler supports, they are fine right now. Everyone else on the Black and Yellow side, I mean, Jubei has just been kind of getting the scraps here. Same with Nick. He's been giving all of these levels over, and we're not seeing that same rotation level coming out of Zero just yet. He's still being a nuisance in the bottom lane, and a nuisance he is, especially to Yuma, but that's where I think we really need to see the Timber and the Mars sync up at least once in this early game, because it does feel like they're just a little too effective on D2 Hustlers. You can't really give them this much time.
Monster's been caught out in that jungle. They're going to hit him up with the spear stun first, the kinetic field thrown down, but...
He's not the hero, though, and then look bot.
Yep. They back off the kill at the exact same time. Zero's going to get hit up. There's going to be the X into the arrow. They don't have the Ghost Ship, so there we go. They'll go in with the Torrent instead, and Devi with the Fire Blast is able to provide a little bit of extra lockdown as Zero goes down, so what was looking initially like a potential trade-off on the offlaners turns into a kill onto the Timber, while Monster just is so hard to kill, so intimidating at this point that Black and Yellow just backed away from him.
And I mean, look at Monster. He's got 100 last hits at 10 minutes into the game. He does not care about anyone or anything. You would say that, but he does. He cares about Zero, but Zero's not playing versus him. I think we gotta see Timber. Yeah, he's gonna TP top, and this is actually a kill if the Zero can stick on him for long enough, but a kill that almost should have been made, I think.
Oh,
2 or 3.
Night.
Is he TP?
Well, nice Shadow into Ravage. Devi's coming in. They actually want the fight. Flea's going to make his way over as well. Black and Yellow, this is their cue to try and fall back, but maybe not. Sammy and Yamsam are coming in from the west. Where's the rest of the lineup? Oh, there's Esk. Comes in, drops the X, gets the Ghost Ship down. The arrow connects as well. Sammy's going to get hit up now by the Torrent, but he is relatively tanky. They're not able to take him down initially, which does buy enough time for the rest of the team to go after Monster, but as you said, ET, that's a kill that they really should have had earlier on. It takes them so long to get it that they will lose some heroes. I think, yeah, they should have Devi here with that glimpse play. They will be able to make that play happen, but that fight just gets so unbelievably messy for them. they need to be able to take this tide down much faster.
And most importantly, it drags Yamsun away from the farming rotation. Meanwhile, Yuma is just able to solely farm on just play in his triangle. It just feels like you can't allow that. You need to actually find the sync ups. And maybe Yamsun comes a little bit sooner there and gets the Infest off onto Sammy Boy just to try and get him out of dodge. But it does feel like they're playing way too reactively. And again, Sammy, Murata coming in. Does he have... Okay, it's a long TP, but yeah, everyone has to come here. Good TP from Yamsun, but this is everyone, yet again. All of these rotations just being forced out.
Zero.
Zero, he doesn't have stacks.
A little careful there, yeah. There's no reactive army. He's going to get hit up by the Fire Blast. The Starstorm comes in. The Infest play, though, will keep him alive. They turn on the fleet quickly. They'll take that kill. And now Monster trapped up inside of the arena, but his teammates are coming in. Esk is here. Divine Llama's coming in as well. Zero not dead yet, but he is on the run. Good play from Sammy, though. Turning around, looking for the knockback with the spear. And Esk... it's a nice attempt there, but he's not actually going to get the cleave, but they're still looking for kills. Nick's been hit by the X. They're going to pull him back into the ghost ship. Gush is there. Torrent comes out. Esk gets the kill. Sammy with another spear, still not getting the stuns, but Esk did get pushed into Yamsun. They're going to drop the Static Storm down now as well, but the Eclipse from Yuma is going to be there. Zero's just getting absolutely annihilated. They will trade out, though. Zero for Esk, but you look at Hustlers, they're really not backing down. They continue to push forward onto the Tier 1. They're going to get it.
And most importantly, that's a fight they took without Ravage. So in 14 seconds here, Monster can still just play out onto the map and Divide.
Are you serious?
He got
Straight to
Sammy.
the bottom with you.
Okay. Okay. That's just worst case scenario for you. And
Oh,
now
boy.
3K Gold Lead starts to emerge, and at the very least, we did get that save from Yamsun. His time wasn't entirely wasted in that mid lane trying to keep Zero alive, but it's a fight that occurs over by your tower. I think Yamsun will just rage out of that X there. But at the same time, you're getting more forced out of you. And oh, that's
Divide. Set up onto Jubei. If that arrow hits, they get it.
He's got to deny, yeah. Ignite's a real cool spell.
Very balanced. Actually, interestingly enough, taking a look at Divide, the skill build here, sort of not what we normally see. I'm not saying he should have maxed out Bloodlust at all, but you've got a Luna on your side, and he hasn't even put a point up in it. So, Divide very much aware of the fact that they kind of need the fight, and now he's looking for it. Sammy, is there any way out for him? Divide should spot him. Oh, you get the vision down. Yuma's pushing over as well. Sammy, though, is buying a lot of time, but time for what, really? I suppose the other cores are farming, but Sammy is eventually going to get taken down here. He'll pop the defensive arena, however, and just try and draw this out for as long as he possibly can, but he will still go down, and that's going to set up the D2 Hustler side for a push onto the Tier 1.
And unfortunately for him, I mean, he also just loses that 1v1, especially with the Veil being finished by Divide. Divide has so much farm and levels right now. I think he took the tome away from Flea, and I don't even blame him because Flea was having a great game. Flea has a Spirit Vessel. These items are just everywhere on the D2 Hustler side, and unfortunately, everyone is now a target with this Vessel finish up. The only one who is going to be able to survive is Yamsun. Unfortunately, Yamsun getting hit by 5 heroes isn't the most ideal situation either. At the very least, Black and Yellow are trying to get the split push game going again, but you look over at Sammy and you just feel this 2-5-2 build. It just feels like, unfortunately for him, he's not finding those opportunities, and Yamsun, no way.
With a stun, the arrow's going to be there. The Ghost Ship is coming in. The Ravage even deployed. They send everything onto Yamsun, and that they had to. If he pops the Rage, maybe he gets away. So that is a massive kill, especially now with Roshan back up. They're just going to push their way forward. I say back up. It's the first Rosh. Sorry. But they're going to push their way into it, and without the Lifestealer, there's really no room for Black and Yellow to contest this.
Nope, not at all, and we'll see how they play with it. They had the same situation happen last game. They got the first Rosh. If they play even a shred better with this Aegis, it's going to feel incredibly difficult. And of course, Yuma's going to be the one to claim it, because of course he is. He's the one who's going to be hitting these buildings. It just feels like we're going to get to this very, very scary game where how do Black and Yellow now convincingly take these fights after D2 Hustlers hit basically all of their item timings, because the biggest benefit and at the same time the biggest downside for this lifestealer is you don't have that mic drop, I got the item, now I win the fight type deal. You are much slower. You are trying to build up your items at still a very fast pace, but there's not that same effect that some other carries and some other cores would definitely feel. Dispatcher really doesn't change all too much for Black and Yellow's ability to take these team fights. It's where you look at the other items on the other heroes, and sure, Spirit Vessel and Yule Scepter are fine and great items, but it feels like we're going to get into the situation where neither of your offlaners are feeling like cores. And it does feel like right now Black and Yellow have two offlaners, unfortunately, and they've got a carry who doesn't win versus Luna.
Yeah, they have put themselves into a bit of a bad way here. Obviously, they can still get themselves out of it, but they need to try and change something, shift momentum here. As you see Sammy sort of wrapping around. His teammates go in from the front. They're going to push onto Divine Llama first. And they should be able to find that kill, but Esk is looking for revenge. He wants in for the X into the Ghost Ship. Lil Nick should be taken down. Jubei fell as well. So they are able to take down both of the supports. One of those supports, though, buying back. Lil Nick will TP back into the fight. The Moonlight Shadow, though, allows most of D2 Hustlers to make their escape. Flea himself will get caught. The cores, they get out safely, but if you're Black and Yellow, I mean, you needed to be able to take that, right? They take the two supports, they got the Aegis away, and that's going to buy them quite a bit of time. They don't want to push for anything after that fight goes down, but they can farm again, they can get some more items up, they can maybe put the likes of the Mars into maybe a more aggressive position here as well.
Yeah, and really getting that Aegis, it's another really quick Aegis kill that unfortunately D2 Hustlers kind of lose again, but losing both the supports there, you have BKB now in Yuma. Yuma is, in very similar fashion to that 2-base game, he has the unlosable team fight. He doesn't need to care about anyone on the Black and Yellow side right now. And I think that's also where Yamsun did a really good job of finding Divai at the start. And unfortunately for Ogre just naturally does not have any tools to work with versus that Lifestealer. At the same time, though, you use Glyph, so D2 can just afford to do this, especially not having to use that Ravage before. And Esk was also the one to clean up the majority of those kills. So this lead is still going to be pretty hard felt, but this is also their timing. 3 minutes and 15 seconds before they have that Glyph back up, so this tower is going to feel the pressure. And Black and Yellow, they really don't want to bring anyone back here. They want to try and hold with just 0 as long as they can, but that's where you gotta be so careful, especially with any of that X combo lands. They could very easily just immediately dive, and Monster has a full Ags as well, so anyone standing behind this tower is gonna feel it.
Yep. That makes the defense even harder, but that's a very nice glimpse. Unfortunately for him, Esk already got down the X, so okay, wow. Turns out the X really wasn't all that necessary. Full duration will really sort of outlast the Static Storm anyway, but Rakunka is just going to go for the X play again. He'll TP back to base, heal up, rejoin his teammates, and well, on the other side you use Static Storm. You really don't get much out of it other than just sort of delaying the push, but delay is the operative word. They have not stopped the aggression, and their tier 3 tower is under attack again.
Now, this is the worst case scenario. You got one item up. Here's no split push potential. Good arena.
Good wrap around from Sammy, but there's going to be the Ravage there to break it up. Yamsun, though, with the Rage, is able to just walk his way through, so they're still looking for the damage, but they've lost 0. He'll buy back quickly, though, TP himself back in, but now, in the process, Sammy gets taken down before 0 can rejoin the fight, and Black and Yellow are in a bit of a bad way. They're going to lose Jubei. They need the Infest play there onto 0 to just get the Lifestealer out of dodge, but this hasn't done a whole lot in terms of slowing down the push. As the arrow actually connected onto the Timber, that forces Yamsun out. He is looking for Yuma. No Aegis on that Luna this time around, so they do back themselves away. They got the tier 3 tower, they got the ranged racks, they forced out a buyback or two and still found a pretty substantial number of kills, and they didn't really give up too much on that play. The Ogre gets picked off, but Divai is more than happy with the trade.
And Divine definitely needs to be careful. He's definitely getting a little bit too far up in a lot of these engagements, but at the same time, you are completely fine with using your BKB like that. If you're Yuma, you get the buyback out from 0. They used the Ravage to kill the Timbersaw in such a clean way that if he didn't have buy, that would have just been Rax. And nice glimpse onto Divai yet again, just doing his job. He'll eat this death, but you still need to be a little bit careful because Black and Yellow, they need 1 or 2 more items, and then suddenly this game does look a little bit more difficult.
Oh my god, he is still running.
Okay.
There we go. That, in the long run, I mean, that's not going to matter too much. But if you're a Devi, you bought your teammates an extra 15, 20 seconds or so. So D2 Hustlers were very much aware of pretty much the locations of 4 out of the 5 black and yellow heroes. And they know no one's coming over after that kill to then look for their farming heroes. So Devi does has to be sacrificed. But if he's creating space like that, I think... well, you're just going to make that play every single time. Yuma is holding on to the casual crit stick. Rather than build that any further up, he's actually going to look for the Hurricane Pike as that next item. So, to a certain extent, I can understand that. We've seen in a couple of fights here, Yuma's dropped a little bit low based on positioning. Obviously, they haven't brought him down yet, but you want to make sure that that problem never becomes an actual problem that could realistically kill you.
Well, and don't hold your breath here, because he is
Nope.
just getting the butterfly now.
Yeah.
But both the items, it's the same idea. Kiting the Lifestealer, trying to make it so that way he can actually stick on this target, and there, again, is not a very easy solution for Yamsun. Of course, it would just very simply be the MKB, but whenever you talk about Lifestealer carry, you're always talking about the Satanic, you're talking about the Scotty, items that will allow him to play either versus silences or just a simple Dispel. Unfortunately, look at how set up they are on the top lane. Even though it's just a crit stick, this is going to die pretty quickly here, and they've got to pretty much immediately react. They saw the ward placed with the sentry, though, so there's not going to be a crazy initiation. Unfortunately, this is just going to be Glyph pretty soon here, and unfortunately as well, I think this might just be the Rax. I don't think they can defend this.
They can't bring anyone back in time to actually mount the defense. The Rax would already fall, so they just have to let it go. Melee will be finished off, so that whole top lane gets cleared out. D2 Hustlers, though... Never mind. Flea's just going to get glimpsed back, but that's really not a play at all. Jubei just sees an opportunity and goes for it, and at this point, Glimpse is on a short enough cooldown where you might as well give it a go, see what you can catch, but the answer at that point is kind of nothing. Hustlers are just really starting to exert more and more control here, and ET, we're about 30 seconds out from the fastest possible respawn on Roshan, so if you're black and yellow, you are hoping for an extended timer, because if it does come up at that first opportunity, they're not in a great position right now to immediately push over to the pit.
No, not at all, and we will see, of course, 10 seconds on that spawner, but that's where I'm still waiting for that big item coming out from anyone. If it's that BKB finish on Sammy that he's been working towards in that bottom lane, or if it's a Halberd or anything of the likes coming in from Zero, I'm just concerned that the item timings coming from D2 Hustlers are just going to be that little bit more effective, like items like the BKB, like Satanic, like Butterfly, that just kind of automatically give you a complete advantage to just eclipse your opponents. Nice little play, bottom.
He's gonna just try and leap
They got
out,
him.
but yeah, Jubei pulls him back in. You ain't going nowhere, as they will find the kill onto Flea. Maybe not the highest value kill in the world, but a kill. Something black and yellow right now really do need to make more space for Sammy and Yamsun. So taking the Murano away, just going to alleviate some of that pressure a little bit. And for D2 Hustlers, well, because of the timing on Roshan, they're not really looking to just commit to a full-on push in the lane. Want to stick around just in case Roshan is going to be respawning, and it is about 10 seconds away. But before we get there, there is going to be a potential fight mid. Device coming in. He's going to get the slow onto Nick. How much further do they want to go? Monster trying to push directly into the middle of the fight. And yeah, his presence means the rest of black and yellow really can't push forward because of the threat of that Ravage. Sammy simply goes for the spear and then walks away. And Esk is actually still chasing. Yules is going to come in, but he didn't quite have the spear in time. 1 second on the cooldown. He goes for the rebuke instead, but Esk doesn't care about that. He'll pop the BKB, both sides activating those BKBs, and that is going to put an end to that fight. But now... did they actually... I'm not sure they scouted out that Roshan is back up, but they're making their way over there. So you have to assume if they didn't know before, they certainly know now, and they will go in for it. And black and yellow... well, I don't know. You don't have the outpost in your control. You don't have the Snapfire up. And actually, it's not even going to matter because Roche is already pretty much down.
Yeah, it's the benefit for rushing the Daedalus. Of course, you just do so much damage. Gonna pick up your shard as well on the Luna, so didn't have to buy that. Super efficient. But that is the benefit of getting a little skirmish like that before Roche could even be respawned. Of course, they didn't know until they scouted out there, but whenever these BKBs are forced to be on cooldown, it's always going to benefit the team with the Tidehunter. It just forces you to actually respect that hero, and is Yamsun actually... Yeah, there's no way. No way for him to die like that. They are looking for more, and unfortunately, I think they might airball here, but
They got
Jubei...
Jubei.
Oh, he's dead.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's not quite the big fish that they were looking for, but Jubei gets picked off. You've still got the Aegis up on Yuma, so you can really continue to push your way forward, and it actually is a little bit fortuitous that it takes them down to this bottom lane. That is the lane that they really had not pushed out to any extent in this game, so they can address that now, get the creep wave up, and realistically speaking, with the Aegis in hand, they may be able to threaten the high ground. They'll be going into the full lineup of black and yellow by that point, but well, with 2 lives up on the Luna, maybe they feel confident enough to just sort of take the plunge.
Yeah, and we'll have to see, because they did give Glyph back to their opponents. Maybe there's an easier play onto that mid-tier 2, but at the same time, as soon as they get the tier 3 Glyph here, then they're going to turn towards that mid-tier 2 tower, unless black and yellow just don't come, which is also a possibility here, but unfortunately, they're out of time. They've got buybacks. They don't have items. They need to actually get on top of these heroes. Unfortunately, now you're in Luna's game. You are just going to go and...
Oh, Monster pulls the trigger. They go in. There's going to be the Ravage into the Eclipse. Sammy tries to throw down the arena, but the Ghost Ship is still flying through, so Yamsun's dangerously low on HP, but they're able to get through that first life. Now he'll infest up into Sammy, trying to heal up as best as he can as the Luna comes back into it, but back into it with a BKB. Yuma pushing his way forward. Going to be able to take down Little Nick. Jubei's fallen as well. Buybacks coming out from both of the supports, but they are beginning to turn. They've taken down Divine Llama. They're onto Yuma. They're going to hit him up with the bash. There needs to be some sort of defensive effort here to keep that Luna alive, but Yuma, he's just fighting his way through that. He gets 2 kills, but he can't take down Yamsun. And now it looks like D2 Hustlers are going to pay for this, or maybe not. Hustlers.
Oh.
They get Monster out of there, so you do lose the blah, 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 blah. Let me try that again. You lose the Yuma Luna. You do lose Divine, but on the black and yellow side, I mean, they had to pay a lot for that defense, and even when you take into account the fact that they got some of those kills, the tier 3 went down, the ranged racks went down. I suppose they did hold the glyph, so they do still have that, but even in a scenario where it felt like things sort of work out for them, they had to expend a lot of resources on that defense.
And unfortunately there, I think they just immediately get the kill on the Lifestealer, but there's that status resist coming in from the Sanjin Yasha, that pesky status resistance that doesn't allow Flea to actually get that chain stun with the arrow. The arrow would have landed, and then I think that fight looks absolutely awful. You don't have that save coming in from Yamsun onto Sammy after everything breaks out. I think everything just looks terrible, but at the same time, you had to use everything. You had to lose a lot there, and not just that, you also are still building up. I think Yamsun, he's going to be the key player here. He's got that Satanic in his quick buy. Once he has it, he's going to just do his job of A-clicking and trying to maybe find the save with the Infest every once in a while on his other 2 cores, but at the same time, they only have so many more pushes like that in them on the D2 Hustler side. I think maybe 1 or 2 more failed attempts, and then we could see this game going in black and yellow's direction, but at the same time, if they want to have a chokehold on this game, and they kind of do, because Yuma is going for that butterfly. He has it already. Once he gets the Satanic, we're going to be at that same power level that we saw Boris earlier, where suddenly this Luna is just fearsome, and there's nothing you can do about it. You don't have that much inherent damage coming from your other side, and that's where heroes like the Mars, unfortunately, when you're not off to a fantastic start, you just don't have enough gas in the tank. You don't have items like the Deso. You don't have the levels to make you really feel impactful. I think this tier 2 mid is just going to be forfeit, but they're not going to back up. They're going to force the entire black and yellow lineup into their base, and then they take the rest of the map.
He's looking to establish control here. Meanwhile, for Devi, he's starting to get the points up in the Bloodlust now. He got himself a Solar Crest, so Yuma is going to constantly be firing at a rate that's just... I mean, just it's stupidly high, the amount of attack speed that they can give over. So that is something black and yellow will have to be maybe a little bit concerned with as well. The last time around, really, Yamsun technically won the fight against Yuma, but it did cost them about 6 or 7 lives in the process. So not sure if they're going to be able to pull it off here. Look at this, Hustlers. They've snuck into their opponent's base, but there's really, there's really nothing for them to do there. They need that creep wave cleared out, so they do double back, and if black and yellow were paying attention, they should see the abilities that cleared it out. But Sammy, he didn't see it. He gets too far forward. He's just dead right away. He is a hero, though, who does have buyback, and there it is. Sammy's back in. The problem is, that was the last buyback that they had at their disposal. Everyone else is either on cooldown or doesn't have the gold for it, and D2 Hustlers are still in their opponent's base looking for that breakthrough moment.
Yeah, and with the creeps really putting the pressure on, it does feel very difficult now. And Yamsun, when do you decide to come back here? Of course, they have the glyph. They're still trying to get those trades going. He will decide to return finally, but at the same time, this is getting really complicated. Nice X on the Flea. Perfect save from Esk, but with the tier 3 gone, they still got glyph, but they are just holding it tightly gripped. Unfortunately, the high ground... Oh, Zero, the same setup.
He gets hit by the arrow. The cookie stun won't come in time, and
Another
Black
buy,
and Yellow they actually don't have their glyph, so I don't know what they can really do here. I didn't even notice them use it, but now Monster blinks in. There's going to be the Ravage. Sammy pops the BKB. Yamsun, though, did not get the Rage out in time. He's going to buy back as he was able to get enough gold for it, but by the time he's back in, Sammy's dead, and he does not have his buyback. He just used it. They're going to clear out the middle lane of Rax. There's only one melee remaining down bottom, but at this point, Black and Yellow are just fighting for their lives. Who cares about the Megas? They just need to get away. As Esk going to be able to take down Little Nick. They're in on a Zero as well. They'll take him down. Yamsun fighting alone, and at this point, fighting is putting it politely. He is running, trying to get back to the fountain, and the GG will be called. D2 Hustlers said they were waiting for their breakthrough moment. They most certainly found it.
Really, the two little plays there at the end coming in from Yuma where he sets up the arrow with Flea just with the 0.25 second mini stun from the Lucent Beam. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's how they kill, I think, 3 of the Black and Yellow. It's how they kill Zero. It's how they kill Sammy Boy. It's how they kill everyone. And it's those little plays that just eventually add up and break you through. And then just the Ravage from Monster. Everything was just so well timed. And of course, Black and Yellow were already under a lot of pressure, a lot of difficult decisions to make, but then everything just kind of comes to a floor when D2 Hustlers decide to execute on the level that they ended up doing. And at the same time, you kind of felt like it was coming a little bit there. It felt like Black and Yellow were running out of time for a lot in that game. But look at the stat lines across the board. Flea Marana. It's just Flea Marana. Every single time he does this, he gets 10, 3, and 19. 2 more deaths than he usually does have. Granted, you know, you usually have the deathless or the one death Marana coming from him. But at the same time, Devi for the first 20 minutes of this game, he's just 2 levels ahead of everyone else on his team, just running around doing whatever the hell he wants with his Veil of Discord, just causing chaos around the map. And unfortunately, in that same vein that Black and Yellow have lost the majority of their games, and they got a fantastic game too, can't take that away from them. We just don't see that same sync up, that same semblance of rotation coming in from both Zero and Sammy. I just felt like they could have synced up maybe just a little bit sooner, and then maybe this game looked a lot easier for them, but they got their comfort heroes. They got what they wanted. Sammy unfortunately had another pretty rough game from the mid lane, but I think without that same rotation level style, they just kind of got out-rotated on, and then they just kind of lost. They not only got out-farmed, but they just weren't able to make the same plays as D2 were.
And this is maybe a little bit of contrast between games 2 and 3. D2 Hustlers ended up in a weird situation switching Esk and Yuma on the Kunkka and TA because to a certain extent they were kind of forced to by their opponent's moves, right? Whereas Black and Yellow this time, the switch up to put Sammy mid on the Mars, it feels like that wasn't something that D2 Hustlers pushed them into. They were trying to just sort of go for the sneaky play, get the Mars early, and then surprise their opponents with a Timber. And in Zero's defense, his game was pretty good. 6-6 and 3. Not fantastic, but it wasn't bad either. But that switch feels like just an unnecessary move. And with the benefit of hindsight now, considering Sammy's game, it really didn't accomplish for them what they wanted it to. I think if they put Zero on the Mars and just get Sammy on a different mid laner, they could have done a little bit more.
Yeah, and it feels like, again, they just needed to meet up in the map a few more times, maybe before their opponents get off to the races, because they still have tied. They did it so well in game 2, where every single time that Ravage was committed, they were the ones getting on the aggressive, and I think in game 3, they just couldn't get that same level, that same structure that they were able to get. And it's a sad loss. We do say goodbye to Black and Yellow here, but at the very least, you know, you weren't the worst team at this tournament. You didn't get eliminated before it even got started, but at least they didn't get 2-0'd. They got that nice game 2 win, and they definitely got to show their stuff. Sad to lose with Yamsun Lifestealer, though, 2 times in the same day.
Yeah, that does put you in a bit of an awkward position, but hey, you know what? At least they were able to try with something that they felt comfortable with, and unfortunately for them, it doesn't work out, but they gave it their best shot, I suppose, which I know that kind of sounds a little not great as a consolation prize, and that's kind of because it is, but it was the best they could do with that situation. Meanwhile, the series has come to an end. D2 Hustlers, congratulations on the 2-1 victory, and I do believe this time around we do have ourselves an interview to work with. So we are going to get Devi Lama in here in just a moment, as we are going to be speaking with him, but I think we have one last bit of setup to do. So I'm going to swap us over to the other screen real quick. We'll be back, though, in just a minute or two with Devi Lama for that post-series interview. So we will be right back. Okay, there we go. We are set up now. We're going to get Devi Lama in here real quick like. So thank you all for the patience, and here we go. I forgot to click a button. God, I am doing so great right now. Thank God there's no games after this, because I am losing coordination, but let's get Devi Lama on in here. And I managed to still make that mistake. There we go. Cameras all over the place. Ugh, Devi, thank you so much for dealing with me and my technical ineptitude, but welcome to the post-series interview. Congratulations on getting the win.
Hello. Thank you very much.
Bump you up there a little bit. There we go. So yeah, first and foremost, again, congratulations on the victory, and I think I'll start off with a bit of that sort of transition into Game 3. Game 2, you guys ended up with a lot of the same heroes. The Tide, the Mirana, the Kunkka, obviously a bit of a switch up on the positional plays there with that Kunkka. After you guys dropped that second game, did you just all sort of say to yourself, we still have the right core, let's just sort of make some minor adjustments with the Ogre and the Luna and just run it back?
Yeah, and the bans, I thought like when they picked Doom at 6-7, it's pretty good against Tide. It's one of Zero's better heroes, strong hero on 6-7. And that trialing as well. I think it was those two things. The Razor Blasters. I felt overall they just had a better draft, and they also got us in the lanes quite hard, and and it forced us to play very, very, very like high pace, and that didn't necessarily play in our favor. So game 2, just a little bit of draft, a little bit of laning stage. That cost us the game, I think.
You guys were able to make the adjustment quite nicely. And speaking on that Game 3 performance as well, ET and I were just sort of very much praising your Ogre performance. Felt like you were able to get so much done there. Still the lowest net worth on your team. You only had 16 last hits in the match, but you just were everywhere, really, making those plays, getting those items. Is it a scenario for you where you can sort of feel that momentum building? You say, okay, I'm gonna rotate, I'm gonna go for like the Veil, the Solar Crest, things like that, and you just know you don't necessarily need that farm to make those plays? Or is it just a, oh wow, we've not
I
accidentally come to the point, but you get there one way or the other?
I just looked and like what we should do in the map, and what I saw that what needs to happen on the map was that we need to run at them and kill them. I mean, I bought the Veil because I thought we need more burst damage. And yeah, that's what you do in Ogre. You cast your spells, you do a lot of damage. You buy Veils, so you do even more damage. Yeah,
I mean,
just look at the map movement.
you make it, well, you make it sound easy, you make it look easy too. So very impressive on that front. And at this point, I'm going to hand it over to ET for a question or two, just so I'm not completely monopolizing your time.
Well, I mean, the only thing I want to ask Devi is, how is it being five? Of course, you've proven yourself, I think, pretty much at this point as one of the most flexible players, especially coming over to NA, over from where you're playing from right now in Belgium. Where do you stand? Because of course you were the offlaner for so many BTS Pro Series. Always like, oh, Devi
Yeah,
is he's gonna play Pango, he's gonna play Timber, he's gonna ruin the game for his enemy team, but. Then you played Earth Spirit, and now you're here over on Ogre and Silencer. How is that working out for you?
it's fun. I went full circle this year because
Yeah,
before I
yeah.
switched offlane when I came to NA, I was a 5 player. I played 5 for a year and a half new when I started my my road of trying to go pro.
Hmm.
I started at 5, and when I came to NA, I decided to switch it up, give offlane a go. It was pretty good, but when after Pendago and T-Bone like left the team, they didn't have much time to play Dota anymore. We need to get a new player. There were no good support players available. So the monster was available. So and he only plays offlane. So I said, well, whatever. I'll go and make the switch to position 4. And then then Flea was available, and I said, whatever. I'll just make the switch back to 5. The switch is not that big. I've already played 5 before, so I went from offlane to 4 to 5. No, from 5 to offlane to 4
Yeah.
back to 5.
Back to five. I
Yeah,
mean,
this year.
you make it look easy. You do make it look easy. But I mean, how does that acquisition even have? Is it really just whoever's available in time for you to get ready for these tournaments, or are you guys already talking? Because I mean, you're basically NA at this point.
Yeah. I mean, like the fact that I have to like that there's like a shortage of players is very much an NA thing because there's not very many top level players in A, so you can't just there's not a player available before every BTS for every role, so it's not that easy.
Mhm. I mean, it's funny because you guys always change it up. You know, it feels like you're always making those moves. And is it always going to be Yuma in Divide? Is there any possibility for you to replace Yuma? Because I feel like you are D2 hustlers, but are you both just always going to be these staples? Because you guys just always seem to rock it.
I hope so.
Fingers crossed.
I hope
Okay,
so.
we're not no
I
Yuma
hope so.
kick. Okay,
No, no,
who'd you kick? Who'd you
no.
kick Yuma for?
Eternal envy. So then he can kick all of us. That would be the
uh,
great
I don't know. I
Oh,
don't know. That didn't work out
the
for
great
Black and
tragedy.
Yellow. The great
Yeah.
tragedy.
yikes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That's it for me, dude. Thanks for talking.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Oh, got to hear. There we go. Got to hear from Devi there on the back end of the 2-1 victory. D2 Hustlers, they live to see another day. They advance to round 2 of that lower bracket. So congratulations to them. And again, thank you to Devi for obviously just doing the interview with us in the first place, but especially for him playing in a very, very different time zone. It was late and he was still willing to stop by and have a conversation with us. So we do always appreciate that, especially for our sort of non-NA and SA boys. And, well, we will see what D2 Hustlers can do now moving forward. They await the results of tomorrow's matches, figure out who they're actually playing. Tomorrow, let me just check this first so I don't say something wrong and sound even dumber than usual. We are going to have Infamous versus 4 Zoomers, along with Lava Best PC and Thunder Predator. Both of those will be from the upper half of the bracket. So no elimination tomorrow, but we are still moving into some high-stakes stuff, because if you win that series, make your way into that upper bracket final, and you're already guaranteed a rather nice finish in this event. So that is the action going down tomorrow. It is going to be mostly South America. We'll see if 4 Zoomers can represent NA on that front, or if they do end up sort of getting dropped down. For now, though, ET, we are done for the day. Day 1 of the playoffs done and dusted here. Any closing thoughts or standout stuff to get to here from today's games?
mean, very simply, we'll see tomorrow. We got Lava versus Thunder Predator. They were the highlight of the group stage for me. I think it was the highlight for a lot of people, and can only imagine if Thunder Predator are actually able to beat out their what feels like their enemies, their right one-to-one rivals, or if we're going to see Lava knock them down and then see some more gameplay later in the bracket to see if Thunder Predator can actually pull the rug out from their opponents. But good games coming up, so tune in tomorrow.
Some good games coming up, and did now just remember for that Thunder Predator squad, since they used to be no ping, they are looking for back-to-back Pro Series victories, which is getting a little ahead of ourselves. They've got plenty of series to actually win out before they can do that, but you can see their first steps on that path tomorrow afternoon. Same start time as we had today, 3 p.m. Pacific. So for now, we will say goodbye. Tune in tomorrow for some upper bracket action. Until then, the rest of your evening.